Today's D&D drama was sponsored by Cheipeku. If your tabletop game uses a grid and you need a place to drop some minis onto at the click of a button, these cartographers have you covered. For just $5, you can unlock their entire archive of maps to download and use permanently. A lifetime's worth of environments are right at your fingertips, being made even better with a slew of variations, keeping areas freshly covered in rain, snow, and rubble. Still not impressed? Well, how about Cheipeku's line of animated maps to put your party in a trance as they marvel at how beautiful the scenery in your game looks. Whatever you're setting up, browsing their catalog is a great way to start. Check out Cheipeku using the link down below, and let's get right into the video. So the 2024 rules for D&D are rearing out, and I can safely say that I'm liking a lot that I'm seeing. Wizards of the Coast did something special this time around and gave content creators an early look into the rulebooks. So everyone's been making videos to hype up the crowd and show off what's coming. And you know, hey, I would have liked one of those too, and it probably would have helped design some of this video, but like, whatever I guess. But whatever, it's already confirmed that WotC is making some changes to how races in D&D are gonna work from here on out. And to the average player, I bet you don't care that much, but I'm gonna prove you wrong, because the name of races are changing to species. Out of every other change that I think 2024 D&D is making, this is the one with the chance to split the community. Imagine sitting at the game table and talking about the rules. During character introductions, someone says, "Oh yeah, my character's species is a minotaur." And then that other person goes, "Cool, my character's race is a dwarf." And just like that, you can tell that these two players are gonna die on these hills. Like, if a person doesn't want to say the word species, they probably also don't like other changes being made to D&D. Or vice versa, the person saying races probably thinks the species guy is a WotC shill. I make homebrew on Patreon, and for the last year I've been using species instead of races just because I think it's more all-encompassing. Like, say a player wants to play as a beholder. Sure, that's not an official race, but should we still even be calling them a race at that point? How about plasmoids? These things are literally just balls of slime. If we like homebrew and playing as monsters, then we should also be fine with dropping races and preference for species. But word choice aside, there are some balance changes coming with species that a handful of you should already be familiar with. And that's in the way ability score bonuses are gonna work from here on out. Instead of forcing you to take specific ability scores, like a gnome always getting a +2 bonus to intelligence, for instance, now you can choose any 3 ability scores you want. So you can dump 2 points into your main stat and 1 in your secondary, or spread them out between 3 different scores. No species will have a stat-defining playstyle now, and customization is the name of the game. There are 2 camps of thought that have been taking potshots at each other about this for a bit now, though. Camp culture feels like races lost what made them special. All gnomes should be smart, all elves should be quick. This isn't something you should be allowed to change, and if you want to play these races, then you should be picking a class that complements their natural abilities. Let's say there was a tiny race in D&D. They'd barely be a foot tall, they could hardly wield a dagger, and realistically lack the strength to compete with any larger race. While me and my homebrew team were cooking up a tiny race of our own, a handful of people were telling me, Blaine, this species would kind of suck for anyone trying to make a martial character. And until then, that was kind of my goal. Why should a race the size of my foot be doing strength-based damage on par with people 6 times their size? At least in camp culture's eyes, each race evolved in different ways. If Minotaur society valued strength and would only instinctively breed with that in mind, all Minotaur should always and only be getting +2s in strength. Over in Camp Inclusivity though, sorry for giving them such a lame name, they still kind of agree with this. Yeah, it makes sense that some species would lean more towards some stats. That's not an issue. What they were asking for though was the allowance to make characters that didn't always have to follow the status quo. Not every campaign runs with the official D&D settings lore, so why should official ways we build characters be limited to just that world? For basically every official species, they're also human-like anyway that the customizability just already makes sense. Like, my elf chose to work out instead of going to backflip training, so I want to put points into strength. It's just an option, and if you don't care about any of this, you can just put the ability score points into the OG stats and be done with it. D&D's had an issue that it's still trying to recover from, where setting specific stuff like monster details, species bonuses, and magic item origins are all tied down to the game's marketed setting. In contrast to the game trying to keep things more open-ended to let players have the final say on some of the more flexible stuff. Alignment was almost removed from the game because not all goblins have to be evil. In the Forgotten Realms they are, but they don't have to be in every other setting. Even though alignment's here to stay though, I imagine it's because it's kind of useful for people to get a quick idea on how a typical monster might hold itself, and D&D's system trusts you to do the rest. Yeah, you could make the same argument with the species ability scores, but unlike something intangible like alignment, you gotta spell out things that make mechanical differences because they matter so much more. Regardless, at least now we'll start seeing species other than tieflings hogging all the charisma classes, and I can finally have stats that encourage playing as the orcish wizard of my dreams. Blaine but never simple, and I'll catch you all in the next one.